The left has gone so fucking far left, so radical, that the right are the ones that are celebrating comedians and celebrating Chappelle. And they had my back through all the crazy shit that happened with me. It was Fox News that fucking had my back.
Would you ever think that they would be the ones to cape for you, like, 10 years ago?
I'm so liberal.
Yeah.
Like, I talk about it all the time. Like, I say I am not a conservative. I'm not conservative.
This is an absolutely clueless remark. It just shows how much of an idiot Joe Rogan is. The right will pretty much take in anybody who is even remotely sympathetic to their side. They are more than happy to welcome anyone into their arms, whether it's Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Bill Maher. All you got to do is go out there. You could be the most liberal person out there, right? And anyone who knows anything about American politics would know this. I mean, for Joe Rogan, as a guy who's running the largest podcast, to not be aware of this dynamic, that if I were Bill Gates, right? And Bill Gates is somebody who they have this sort of, there's conspiracy theories about him and whatever. And personally, not a good guy. I think his explanation for his relationship with Mr. Hang himself, you know who I'm talking about, Mr. Sex Island dude. But anyway, if Bill Gates were to go out there and say that the left has gone too extreme and they're going too far left and they're just turning off everyone, and he thinks that this woke culture is just incredibly problematic, right? And add like an icing on the top and say somehow it's hurting the economy and this kind of stuff. Or if he just went off on Joe Biden, if Bill Gates went off on Joe Biden really is a failure, and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, inflation and whatever, like, they would welcome him with open arms. Like, you wake up the next morning, you're gonna see a Tim Pool video. Oh my goodness, even Bill Gates has whatever the word is, he's abandoned Joe Biden. Even Bill Gates is calling out Joe Biden and his failures. That's when you know you've really failed, when you got Bill Gates, right? And that'll be the beginning of it. Then he just starts saying some other stuff that's like sympathetic to the left. And then the other thing about it, the other dynamic which will guarantee this kind of celebration from right-wingers, is if you do something like, for example, if Bill Gates goes after Joe Biden, there's going to be a lot of attacks from liberals, right? And the whole point of the right, just like the left, it's all about opposition. It's all about being contrarian. If your political opponent has one position, you got to go to the opposite side of it, whether it makes sense or not, right? So if the left is going after Bill Gates, how dare he call out Joe Biden? What does he want? Trump? Bill Gates is trying to get Trump, right? That gives them a cancel culture narrative to jump on. So they'll be like, oh my goodness, look at the cancel culture. Bill Gates, he's learning the truth about the left and how crazy they are. And now and then they would wrap their arms around him because, having him be on their side, right? And then somebody else like, look at all these people moving to the right. That it's enforcing their narrative of how the left has gone so far left and so extreme and whatever. So for Joe Rogan to be surprised at this, like, oh my goodness, the right-wingers, they were the ones that Fox News rescued. Of course they did, dude. Where the hell have you been, you dummy? Wow.
But I am pro Second Amendment, and I am a hunter, and I am a cage fighting commentator,
and these are all conservative values, being a hunter and a cage fighting dude. And what a cartoonish representation of conservatism. He's trying to say, like, it sounds like he's trying to say like, I've got these conservative qualities, but I'm not really conservative. My assumption, I may be wrong.
Smoke cigars, and I like to bow hunt.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
Smoke cigars. That's another conservative quality, right?
In there, that's like, hey,
crossover.
Yeah, but it's just being a human. But I'm a compassionate person, and I believe that.
Are you implying that conservatives are not compassionate? yeah, I'm rough and tumble, just like the conservatives typically are. That's why people may think of me as conservative. But you know what? Unlike this savage, evil conservatives, I'm actually conservative. I'm actually compassionate, just like a typical liberal.
Boy, I'll tell you what though. One thing that happened during this pandemic was it opened my eyes about human nature. Like, I used to be very pro universal basic income. My thought was, wouldn't it be great if you just had enough money so you could eat and you could pay your rent and then you could pursue what you wanted to? But the reality of human nature came fully into focus when I realized that when some people got all that money from the government, the COVID money, and then they got unemployment, they didn't want to work. I have a friend who has a restaurant. He could not get people to come back to work.
Yeah.
And so one buddy of mine, a bartender told him, I can come back to work, but I can only work for 20 hours a week because that way I get unemployment. So he wouldn't work more than 20 hours a week so he could get free money. Mm-hmm. So he could have made more money, but he didn't want to because he didn't want to work. So he was getting that free money. And then my friend was like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Like, and now he's always short-staffed and it's a mess.
Yeah.
Like, you see a lot of people that own businesses that have a hard time finding people work for them. So there's pros to that, right? The pros, it's a marketplace that favors the worker, so workers can ask for more money. So you're seeing a lot of places like bars and restaurants and stuff that have to pay more money per hour.
For some of you guys that have actually been paying attention to what's been happening in this country, you might be a little bit confused after what you just heard. So let me just clarify a few things for you. It is June 1st, 2022. I will repeat myself and say once again, it is June 1st, 2022. You're probably wondering why I'm repeating that date, and I will tell you in just a second after you do me a favor and click on that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. This is your non-partisan commentary channel. If you're looking for a channel that's non-stop attacking the left or non-stop attacking the right, this is not the channel for you. There's tons of garbage channels that'll give you that you can go watch. We live in reality here on this channel. So whenever there's corruption, I call it out. I don't care which party it is. I'm not going to spend 98% of my time focused on one side, be quiet about the other side. I'm not anybody's cheerleader. I'm not here to support any tribe. I'm the most disloyal person on YouTube. The side I'm on is truth. If the right is right about something, I'm with the right. If the left is right about something, I'm with the left. Anyway, June 1st, 2022. Why is that significant? This guy is still talking about some misinformation bullshit that came from a lot of right-wing influencers. This is the kind of stuff that you see when you have someone who's either dishonest or you have someone who is just so deep in a echo chamber that they're just so lost, right? They are talking about something that was debunked months ago, a year ago. Like, are you still saying this, right? It's like there was an explosion in January of this year. I'm making this up, right? Explosion in January of this year. And people thought it was a terrorist attack, right? And then a couple days later, we found out it was a gas leak, right? And here's Joe Rogan, right? So 6 months later, talking about, oh, you remember that explosion, that the terrorist attack thing? That was crazy, man. I can't believe it in January. Like, terrorist attack, bro. Like 3 days after that, we found out it wasn't a terrorist attack. Why are you still talking about this that was debunked? So here's the bullshit that was coming from a lot of right-wing influencers. And these guys in right-wing media just completely dishonest. So after it was revealed that what they were saying was false, they don't go and make a retraction. They don't correct anything. In fact, you have people like him, not a right-winger. I know a lot of left-wing people try to say he's a right-winger. He's not a right-winger, right? But people like him still repeating the same narrative. The big talk was one of the big problems with this country is all these giveaways, right? People are, why would anybody go to work if they can stay home and do nothing and get paid, right? Biden is giving people money to do nothing. So, of course, they're not going to want to go to work, right? We're giving out too much stimulus. In the beginning, yeah, we could see it makes sense, but now no, things are opening up. There's jobs out there. There's all these help wanted signs, and people just don't want to go to work. They're lazy, right? And then they started cutting off the unemployment state by state, right? A lot of the conservative areas did it first. And magically, just like they presented things as soon as unemployment stopped, all of a sudden, there was no more help wanted signs. Everybody came rushing back to work, right? Because they were correct. The reason why people wouldn't work is because they were getting paid to do nothing. So once you pull the unemployment, everyone went back to work, right? That's why in January of 2022, there's still a massive labor shortage that he's even talking about here. See what I just did there? After they pulled the unemployment, people still did not go back to work. They didn't go back to the same bullshit jobs that they were working on before the pandemic. We had many people who looked at this as an opportunity to retire early, so they ain't coming back, right? But the right-wing influencers, they don't want to talk about that, right? Because they want to frame it as a thing. It's all Biden and too much stimulus and there's a socialism thing on the far left. They want to put these bullshit talking points, so they don't want to talk about people retiring, right? So let's just ignore that reality. Then you have people who, contrary to a lot of the right-wing arguments, a lot of people in this country they like money, right? They like money. And the ability to buy things, the ability to be able to pay your rent, maybe take a vacation, maybe have some savings. People in America like money. I know this is something, I'm revealing something, that no one's ever heard before. So if you're working a bullshit $7 an hour job, how you got to be in that position, a lot of people have a lot of different stories, different paths that led them there. But the thing about it is, once you get caught up in that kind of life, it can be like a trap and like you become like a slave, right? You end up being overextended because you're not making enough money. Then you start digging into credit, and then all you can do is make the bare minimum payments, and that could, you could be for life paying bare minimum, right? You just can't make any headway. And then you work in a crazy job, maybe multiple jobs. When you come home from work, you're just wasted. You're trying to raise a family. It's just too much. At some point in time, you just get buried. And it's just survival for you, right? Just trying to get to the next day, right? Check to check, right? And you'd have conservative commentators would talk about these people that end up in this cycle and being trapped and talk about them being lazy. But I'm one of the most ambitious people that you could ever know, right? I'm a person born in a third world country. We didn't have electricity when I was born, no running water. They had to go down to the river to get water. That's where I come from, right? Raised in a tiny island, came to the United States to live in New York City, big New York City. I'm some kid from some island. What do I know about? I worked my ass off. While my coworkers were going to the bar after work, I was working extra hours. I'd go home to study and read books, right? 16-hour days was a regular thing for me. And when I worked my way up to BMW money, I bought myself a Toyota, paid it off in cash 2 years later. That's how I get down. Quickly got myself up to 6-figure salaries and beyond. But even after I had made all of this success, I found myself at some point in time, my industry fell apart. I couldn't find work. Unemployment ran out. I tried and I tried. Trust me, man. Ex-military. I come from a culture of people that, we know how to work, right? Calluses on your hands. No excuses, right? Like they said in the military, being dead is not an excuse. Now, that's military. That's not my culture. But that kind of mentality, right? Work hard, blood and sweat. And I used that blood and sweat and that aggression, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, trying to enhance my skills and come up with different strategies. And I got the whiteboard out and let me try this and that. How can I figure this out? I can't get a job. I got to figure out what jobs I can get. I'm scanning all these positions and have a spreadsheet of all the most common skill sets people are asking for and trying to see how it connects with what I already know, and then taking online courses and whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like working it out. Who do I know that I can call? Maybe somebody knows something, like everything I can think of, and just couldn't pull it off. Savings quickly runs out. Unemployment quickly runs out. Unemployment is not paying my bills, $400 a week or something ridiculous, not paying my bills. So you're just going down, going negative, working hard. Eventually, you push things so hard in terms of you're going for a long time off your savings or off that nonsense unemployment, to where if you don't do something quick, you're about to be in the streets because you're about to run out of money. That's when you get desperate. You try to, when you have a professional career that's very skill oriented, the longer you don't do it, the harder it is to get back in because your skills get rusty and rusty, so you don't do as good interviews, right? And to maintain the skills takes a lot of time, right? If you're spending a lot of time trying to find work, right, it's sort of limiting. So out of desperation, at some point, I gotta pay these bills. I'm not about to be kicked out. So then you start, okay, I'm gonna stop looking at professional work, and I started looking at just regular stuff. That's where I got myself selling mops, right? When I was selling mops, going from store to store, 15-minute shows, I think 5 or 6 of them a day or something, on my feet all day. Sometimes I do a show and I don't sell any, or I only sell 1 or 2. And that means I'm going to have trouble paying the rent. I got collection agencies coming after me. One time they took money straight out of my account. I am barely making it. And then I go to my bank account and find out money's missing because collection agents got permission to pull money out of my account. In that situation, you're so stressed out. You're so depressed that the idea of you finding the time or ability to work on the things that you might need to get yourself out of the situation is tough. I remember one of the last days at that job, I, as a person who, it's hard to get me upset, I lost it. My boss was being a jerk with me in a store, and I had to step outside. My heart rate was racing. I saw the end of my career coming very, very fast because the path that I was on, forced to be on to survive, because I don't have a rich dad. You stay on that path long enough, and that could be for life. One thing leads to the another. But the thing about it is when you are in that treadmill where you're just trying to survive, trying to get day by day, and you don't have the rich dad to fall on, and you're like me, someone who doesn't, I don't want to go and have to live with someone and have to feel like I'm sponging off of someone. I want to, be able to take care of myself. You could say that's a little bit of ego, whatever it is, but when you're that kind of person, you can easily end up. So the idea that you just have a bunch of of course there's lazy people, right? But generally speaking, people want to make money. And if you're stuck in a dead-end job, barely making ends meet, I could explain this even better. I can utilize the situation I was in that I just described to you, and let's transpose that into pandemic time. Let's say that happened during pandemic time. I guarantee you, if I was able to make more money from unemployment than that bullshit, I would have, this is a tough choice. That's the job you have, to let go of the one job you have. So that would have been a tough decision to make, but I would have very likely made a decision to leave that job and go on unemployment, and I would use that breathing room, use that extra money to pay off some of my debt, right? Get myself a little bit above water, and use that breathing room to finally work on getting myself back. I have a little bit of time that I can focus on picking up a new skill, taking a course or something, and then these folks in right-wing media I would be one of the people that they describe as lazy, and it's a problem because I'm being paid to do nothing. But I wouldn't be doing nothing. I would be working on building myself up so I can get a better job, so that I can therefore contribute more to our economy. From the better job, I have more income, and therefore I can spend more. And that spending helps our economy. Without that unemployment help, I will be stuck well below the poverty line, and I'm not really contributing because I'm barely making enough money just to survive. But of course, you're not going to hear about that in conservative media. You're not going to hear about how many people were transitioned from that type of situation to a situation where they got better job. They ended up getting a remote job or just a job with more money where they could get themselves above water. What kind of fool wouldn't take advantage of the opportunity? Which, again, in the end, we all benefit, right? Conservative media would look at it just as, oh, they're at home and they're not, doing anything. But you have a bunch of people that upgrade their lifestyles, pull themselves up over the poverty line. Now they're less of a burden to the system. Maybe they were on food stamps or something. Now I don't need no food stamp. You started a podcast, you started your own business, or you just started a new career. Now you don't need as much government assistance or any government assistance. And now you have more money to spend and contribute to the economy. But they don't want to talk about that. The reality is, when they cut off the unemployment, people still didn't go back to work. We're still having a problem right now. Like I said, some people retired early. Other people changed jobs. You have certain industries that suck, and these workers were abused and not being paid nearly enough money to survive. They've moved on. And I actually spoke to someone like this guy Joe Rogan spoke to, a local business owner who was equally clueless. That was complaining as well about the same thing, about, the unemployment or whatever, and we can't find workers. And I'm like, do they realize that this low minimum wage was basically subsidizing their business? Do they realize that? When you have the minimum wage so low, creates a workforce that you can enslave, because the money is so low they can barely make ends meet. They get themselves caught up in credit card debt, and otherwise they're trapped. They can't even move to a different area. They don't have the money for it. Then you get to treat them however you want to treat them, because they don't have the money to move. Give them crazy hours. Again, you're in that situation where you're stuck. So you, as a small business, you have a lot of people that you can tap into, and they'll stay around because they can't do any better, right? If you paid them more, they'll be more comfortable, right? They wouldn't be as stressed out and depressed. And from that, they might find their way to a better path, a better job. I'm not saying that there's people who have made it from the very bottom to the top. I'm not one of them, but I did make my way pretty far, again, coming from a third world country to, where I'm at today. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but that's an outlier. I'm an outlier. Most people in that situation are going to end up stuck like that. You keep the salaries as low as possible, and that allows you to keep a lot of people trapped, right? And available to maximize your profits by keeping your overhead low as possible and not requiring you to be that good of a business person. There are many people who should not be in business. Conservative media don't want to talk about these people. When they talk about, you increase their minimum wage, business got to close. Yes, a lot of bullshitters who are only in business now because of how low the pay is. So they don't have to make as much profit because they can pay so little and get away with it. If they had to pay a reasonable wage, that would require them to actually be good at business. We all know a lot of local businesses that suck, right? Horrible customer service. Maybe it's the only one and you're forced to go there. But we know there's a lot of people in business that shouldn't be in business. But in this country, we allow for such low wages that you don't have to necessarily be as good as you should be to be successful in business. But again, the idea that in June of 2022, he's still talking about this long disproved narrative about people don't want to go to work because they're getting paid to do nothing. Unemployment has been cut months and months ago. The extra checks, there's no more stimulus, right? Any built up savings, it's already gone. But yet, folks are still repeating the same bullshit narrative that they repeated. Years from now, folks will still be talking about how the Democrats gave all this socialism, and because of that, you remember how, no one could find any workers. No one could find any workers because they were getting paid to be at home. Clearly, that's not the case. But people in their bubbles, like Joe Rogan, and people who are dishonest, like the ones I talk about all the time, still refuse to let go of the lies. I don't think Joe Rogan is intentionally misleading people. I think it's just like a lot of folks on the left who still don't know how much of a fraud Dr. Fauci is. Speaking of which, I haven't seen that loser in so long. Wow. It's just like how a lot of folks on the left didn't know anything about lab leak until it started getting mainstreamed. They got caught up in the partisan stuff because the people who were mainly talking about it were also talking some other craziness and were part of a crazy squad. So they were automatically dismissed. So they didn't realize that, no, there's something there. Now they took that little something and created a whole nother something else that's nonsense. But forget the nonsense. At the root, there was something there. But a lot of folks on the left had no idea. If you talk to them about this stuff, before it started getting mainstream, you're a Trump supporter. You're a conspiracy theorist. That's Joe Rogan on this narrative about people getting paid to do nothing. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.